Have you noticed? The more you talk about your life, the smaller you start to feel. And here's the dangerous part, you don't even realize it. Every complaint, every story you repeat, slowly becomes the chain that keeps you trapped exactly where you want to escape. Picture this. You've had a terrible day. Instinctively, you grab your phone and unload it all on friends or social media. For a moment, you feel lighter, but in truth, you've just reinforced the very identity you want to leave behind. The Stoics knew, silence isn't hiding, silence is power. And today, you'll learn 13 Stoic lessons to know when to speak, when to remain silent, and how to let your actions speak louder than words. Lesson 1. Never diminish yourself with your own words. Words are not just sounds, they are the bricks from which you build your identity. Every sentence you speak is like laying down another stone in the foundation of how others see you and how you see yourself. Now, here's the problem. If every time you introduce yourself, you casually throw out phrases like, "I'm so clumsy," "I'm not good at this," "I'll probably mess it up again," you're doing more than making conversation, you're branding yourself. And the most dangerous part? People will start believing that label before they even know who you really are. Once they believe it, they'll treat you through that lens, and often you'll start treating yourself the same way. A real-life example. I once had a friend who, on the very first day we met, laughed and said, "I'm super forgetful, don't expect much from me." He thought it was harmless, maybe even self-deprecating humor. But within weeks, I noticed something. People stopped giving him important tasks, not because they disliked him, but because he had already trained them to lower their expectations. He built the very box he would be stuck inside. The Stoic perspective. The Stoics understood the power of speech. Epictetus warned that careless words can shape your destiny, because what you repeatedly say becomes what you repeatedly believe. And what you believe becomes the life you live. To a Stoic, words are tools, not toys. You don't swing them around recklessly, you use them to build, strengthen, and direct your character. So here's the challenge. From this moment on, catch yourself when you're about to speak poorly of yourself, even as a joke. Humor is fine, but not when it chips away at your self-respect. Replace "I'm terrible at this" with "I'm still learning this." Swap "I'm always late" with "I'm working on being more punctual." These subtle shifts won't just change how others see you, they'll reprogram how you see yourself. Remember this Stoic truth. If your words do not lift you up, they have no business leaving your mouth. Speak in a way that plants seeds for the person you want to become, because every word you say is either building your future or quietly destroying it. Lesson 2. Transformation doesn't need an audience. We live in an age where every step of change is broadcast. You start going to the gym, post a picture, you try a new skill, make a reel, you eat a healthier meal, share it on your story. Somewhere along the way, we started to believe that if it isn't posted, it didn't happen. But the truth? Real change doesn't need a spotlight. In fact, the more you keep it private, the more powerful it becomes. When you constantly announce your transformation, you invite opinions, judgments, and even subtle resistance from others. And those little comments, "Are you sure this will work?" or "I've heard people fail at that," can plant seeds of doubt that take root before your new habit even grows strong enough to survive. Sometimes, the best way to protect change is to keep it between you and yourself until it's unshakable. A real-life example. I have a friend who quietly lost 33 pounds in 6 months. No progress photos, no day one announcements, no calorie counting updates for the world to see. He simply worked. When I saw him half a year later, I almost didn't recognize him. His transformation needed no captions, no hashtags. It was written all over his face, his posture, his energy. The change was so obvious that words would have been redundant. The Stoic perspective. The Stoics understood that true transformation is internal first, external second. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." That's the essence of quiet change. You don't need to tell people you're evolving. They'll see it in how you carry yourself, in the decisions you make, in the energy you bring into the room. Your challenge. The next time you start something new, a habit, a discipline, a commitment, resist the urge to announce it. Let it grow roots in silence. Let it become so much a part of you that it can't be shaken by a careless comment or a skeptical look. And when people finally notice, it won't be because you told them. It'll be because your transformation has become undeniable. Remember, change so deeply that it speaks for itself, so clearly that no explanation is required. Lesson 3. Let your actions speak louder than words. Talk is easy. Promises are cheap. The world is overflowing with people telling you what they will do, what they plan to achieve, or how, this time, things will be different. But here's the truth. It's not the promises that matter. It's the proof. You've probably met someone like this. They announce every New Year's resolution with confidence. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I'm finally quitting social media. I'm launching my business this year. And yet, weeks later, nothing has changed. The alarm clock mysteriously stops ringing. The phone is back in their hand, and the business plan is just a forgotten file. The problem isn't dreaming big, it's spending all your energy talking about the dream instead of building it. The Stoics had no patience for empty declarations. Epictetus said, "It is not words that make a man great, but actions." Marcus Aurelius lived this truth. He didn't parade through Rome boasting about being a wise emperor. He simply governed with integrity, day after day, decision after decision. A real-life example. A friend of mine quietly trained for a marathon. No social media updates, no countdown posts. He just ran, every morning, every evening, through the rain and heat. On race day, he didn't need to announce that he had been preparing. Crossing the finish line said everything. The danger of premature announcements. When you talk too much about what you're going to do, you get a small dopamine hit, a sense of satisfaction that tricks your brain into thinking you've already achieved something. That fake victory can kill the very hunger that would have driven you to act. Your challenge. The next time you're tempted to tell the world your plans, stop. Write them down for yourself. Start working in silence. Build in the shadows until your results shine so brightly they can't be ignored. Let people notice without you having to say a word. Remember, words fade, actions remain. In the end, the loudest statement you'll ever make is the life you actually live. Lesson 4. Change the story you tell yourself. Every day, you are telling yourself a story. Not out loud, not on paper, but in the quiet, constant conversation inside your head. And here's the catch. That story becomes your reality. If your inner dialogue sounds like this: "I always mess things up. This is just my bad luck. I'm not good at this." You're not just describing a moment. You're reinforcing an identity. You're rehearsing a role you'll keep playing until you decide to rewrite the script. The Stoics understood that events themselves are neutral. It's our judgments about them that give them weight. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If your mental soundtrack is filled with self-defeat, then every setback will feel like confirmation that you were right to doubt yourself. A real-life example. I once coached someone who kept saying, "I'm terrible at speaking in public." Every time she had to present, her nerves proved her right. But the truth? She wasn't inherently bad. She was repeating a story she had told herself for years. We worked on changing the script to, "I'm still learning to speak confidently." That small shift opened the door for her to actually practice without the weight of "I'm terrible" crushing her. The Stoic perspective. Epictetus taught that we are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. That includes the views we take of ourselves. If you keep feeding your mind with words that weaken you, your actions will follow suit. But if you speak to yourself as you would to a friend you respect, you plant seeds of resilience and growth. Your challenge: Identify the phrases you repeat about yourself, especially the ones you say in frustration or as a joke. Then consciously reframe them. Replace "I can't handle this" with "I'll figure this out." Swap "I always fail" with "I'm improving with every attempt." You don't have to shout these affirmations to the world. Just change the language in your own head. Over time, your thoughts will shift, and so will your actions. Remember, the story you tell yourself isn't just background noise, it's the blueprint of your life. Change the story, and you change the ending. Lesson 5. Understand the power of every word. Words are not harmless. Every sentence you speak is like a seed, and every seed you plant will grow into something. The question is, are you planting flowers or weeds? We throw words around casually, thinking they vanish into the air. But in truth, they linger. They shape moods, influence decisions, and create mental pathways both for us and for the people who hear them. The Stoics treated language with the same seriousness as action, because to them, words were actions. Think about it. One careless sentence can shatter trust, while one sincere phrase can inspire someone for years. The same is true for the words you say to yourself. Negative self-talk is like dripping water onto stone. One drop seems harmless, but over time, it carves deep grooves you can't ignore. A story to remember. There's an old fable about two frogs who fell into a deep pit. The others gathered around and shouted, "It's hopeless, you'll never get out." Hearing this, one frog gave up and died. The other kept jumping, harder and harder, until he escaped. When asked how he did it, he explained that he was deaf. He thought they were cheering him on. Same words from the crowd, but one frog heard them as death, the other as life. The Stoic perspective. Epictetus advised, first learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. In other words, don't speak out of habit or emotion. Speak with awareness. If your words don't help, clarify, or build, silence is often the wiser choice. A personal reflection. I once worked with someone who constantly said, "This is a disaster," whenever a problem arose. And guess what? The team always approached the situation with more panic than focus. Later, we replaced that with, "This is a challenge, let's find the best way forward." The problems didn't magically disappear, but the energy shifted completely. Your challenge? Pay attention to the language you use today. Remove phrases that poison your mindset. Change "I have to" into "I get to." Change "I'm stuck" into "I'm figuring it out." And when it comes to others, remember, your words may be the only encouragement they hear today. Make them count. Remember, words are not just noise. They're the blueprint of the future you're building. Speak as if every word you say will echo back into your own life, because it will. Lesson 6. Not everyone understands what you carry inside. Have you ever poured your heart out to someone, only to be met with a blank stare, a dismissive comment, or a quick change of subject? You walk away feeling misunderstood, maybe even foolish for opening up at all. Here's the truth. Not everyone will understand your struggles, your vision, or your growth. And that's okay. Your life is a book, and most people are only reading a single page. They can't possibly know the whole story. The danger comes when you keep trying to make them understand. You explain. You justify. You repeat yourself in different words, hoping they'll finally get it. But often, you're just draining your own energy. The Stoics knew this was a trap. Epictetus warned, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because chasing other people's understanding can make you a prisoner to their approval. A real-life example. I once knew a man who decided to leave a stable corporate job to start his own business. Excited, he shared the news with friends and family, but instead of support, he was bombarded with fear and skepticism. That's too risky. Most small businesses fail. Why leave something secure? Asterisk. Within weeks, their doubts became his doubts. He delayed his plans for over a year. The idea wasn't the problem, the noise was. The Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the subject." You can't expect someone who has never walked your path to fully understand it. And you certainly can't let their lack of understanding derail your journey. Your challenge: stop over-explaining your life to people who aren't invested in your growth. Protect the fragile stages of your transformation like a seed beneath the soil. It needs time to grow before facing the elements. When someone doesn't understand, resist the urge to convince them. Smile, thank them for their thoughts, and keep moving. Remember, not every room deserves your voice, and not every person deserves your story. The ones meant to understand will see your progress without you saying a word. Until then, keep building in silence, because your life isn't meant to be approved, it's meant to be lived. Lesson 7. Saying it might calm you, but doing it transforms you. There's a strange trap we fall into, one that feels productive, but secretly holds us back. We talk about what we're going to do. We share our plans with friends, post them on social media, maybe even give inspiring speeches about them. And for a moment, it feels good, almost as if we've already taken the first step. But here's the science. Studies have shown that when you tell people your goals, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical you get from achieving something. That fake victory can fool you into thinking progress has been made, when in reality, nothing has changed. A real-life example. I once knew someone who decided to run a half marathon. The day he registered, he announced it to everyone, posting photos of his running shoes, sharing motivational quotes, even talking about his training plan over coffee, but he rarely ran. By race day, he hadn't trained enough and ended up quitting halfway. He had celebrated the idea so much that the execution lost its urgency. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius didn't go around declaring, "I will be a just and disciplined ruler." He simply ruled that way consistently, quietly, without needing applause. For them, virtue was proven in daily actions, not in declarations. Why this matters? When you talk too much about what you're going to do, you release energy that should be used to do it. Every minute spent convincing others is a minute not spent building the thing you're promising. Your challenge. The next time you feel the urge to announce a new goal, resist. Keep it between you and the work. Write it in a private journal. Start taking tangible steps before sharing a word. Let your results be the announcement. And here's the reward. When you accomplish something without broadcasting the struggle, the victory is sweeter. Not because others notice, but because you know every inch of that success was earned in silence, without external pressure, without premature applause. Remember, talking might soothe your nerves, but doing will change your life. The transformation you're after isn't built in conversations, it's built in actions, repeated quietly until they redefine who you are. Lesson 8. Listen more than you speak. Nature gave you 2 ears and only 1 mouth for a reason, to remind you that listening is twice as important as talking. Yet in today's world, it often feels like the opposite. Everyone's in a rush to be heard, but few have the patience to truly hear. Listening isn't passive, it's a form of strength. When you listen deeply, you see more, you understand more, and you make better decisions. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus, who spent years as a slave before becoming a philosopher, learned to listen out of necessity. But over time, he realized it was a superpower. His advice was simple. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. A real-life example. I once sat in a meeting where 2 people dominated the entire conversation, bouncing their opinions back and forth like a tennis match. Meanwhile, a quiet man at the end of the table said nothing for nearly an hour. When he finally spoke, his words cut through the noise with such clarity that the entire room fell silent. Why? Because he had listened, really listened, and when he spoke, it was from a place of understanding, not ego. The power of silence in conversation. When you stay quiet, people reveal more than they realize. You notice their tone, their body language, the emotions behind their words. you catch what they're not saying. This information can be more valuable than anything you could have added to the conversation. Marcus Aurelius embodied this as emperor. Surrounded by advisors, soldiers, and politicians, he didn't always jump to speak. He listened, gathered the full picture, and then acted. His restraint allowed him to lead with wisdom rather than impulse. Your challenge: in your next conversation, pause before replying. Let the other person finish without interruption. Ask questions instead of rushing to share your own story. Notice how this changes the dynamic. People will feel heard, and you'll walk away with a deeper understanding. Remember, the loudest person in the room often knows the least. The one who listens learns the most. In a world obsessed with speaking, choose the power of listening. Not only will it make your words more valuable when you do speak, it will make your mind sharper and your presence stronger. Lesson 9. If you depend on applause, you won't get far. There's nothing wrong with appreciation. We're human. A kind word or a pat on the back feels good. But when you start relying on applause to keep going, you've already surrendered your freedom. Why? Because applause is unpredictable. Today they love you, tomorrow they've moved on. If your motivation depends on external recognition, you'll rise and fall with every cheer and every silence. The Stoics saw this clearly. Marcus Aurelius warned himself in his meditations, "It is not the applause that makes the act good." A real-life example. I once knew an artist who thrived on social media likes. Every new piece he painted went online within hours, fishing for hearts and comments. When engagement was high, he worked relentlessly. But when it dipped, so did his creativity. Eventually, he stopped painting altogether, not because the art lost meaning, but because the applause stopped. This is the danger. When you live for approval, you die when it's absent. The Stoic perspective. True discipline doesn't need an audience. Epictetus reminded his students that virtue is its own reward. The satisfaction of doing the right thing or pursuing your craft should come from alignment with your values, not from public recognition. Your challenge: start detaching your work from people's reactions. If you're proud of something you've done, let that pride be enough. Finish a workout without posting it. Write in your journal without sharing a quote. Achieve a milestone without announcing it. Over time, you'll discover something liberating. When you stop chasing applause, your energy shifts from performing to creating. You work more consistently because your fuel comes from within, not from fleeting claps. A mental exercise. Imagine no one will ever know about the effort you're putting in. Would you still do it? If the answer is yes, you've found something worth your time. If it's no, you might be doing it for the wrong reasons. Remember, applause is sweet, but self-respect lasts longer. The quiet victories, the ones no one sees, but you are the true foundation of strength. Build that, and no crowd can make or break you. Lesson 10. Not everyone deserves your trust. Trust is one of the most valuable gifts you can give, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to restore. Yet, too often, we hand it out like free samples, offering the deepest parts of ourselves to people who haven't earned the right to hold them. The Stoics understood that trust should be built slowly, like a fortress strong enough to last, but not open to just anyone. Seneca put it bluntly, "It is more fitting to be careful than to regret." A real-life example. I knew someone who, within days of meeting a new friend, shared a personal struggle that had taken years to process. At first, the friend seemed compassionate until the story reappeared in a group conversation as gossip. The damage wasn't just the betrayal, it was the realization that the wound had been reopened unnecessarily. Why this happens? Sometimes we share too quickly because we don't want to carry the weight alone. Other times, we're chasing validation, hoping someone will confirm our worth by listening. But not everyone has the capacity or the integrity to treat our vulnerabilities with care. The Stoic perspective. Epictetus advised his students to observe before opening up. Watch how someone speaks about others. Do they respect confidences? Do they mock or belittle? If they can't protect someone else's truth, they won't protect yours. Your challenge: test small before you trust big. Share minor details and see how they handle them. If they keep it private, you can slowly open the door further. If they use it as entertainment, you've learned an important lesson without sacrificing something deeper. Also, learn the difference between needing to express something and needing to express it to a specific person. Some things can be written in a journal, spoken aloud in solitude, or processed with someone who's proven worthy of that role, not just anyone willing to listen. Think of your trust like a rare key. You don't hand it to strangers. You protect it until you know the door it unlocks will be honored, not broken down. Remember, you can be open-hearted without being wide open. Protect your inner world, and it will protect you. Those who truly deserve your trust won't demand it, they'll earn it, step by step. Lesson 11. Some battles are only won in silence. Not every fight is fought in the open. Some of the most important victories in your life will happen quietly with no witnesses, no speeches, and no announcements. When you share your plans too early, you open the door for doubt, criticism, and fear to creep in. Even well-meaning people can unintentionally derail your progress with their concerns. A fragile seed doesn't need wind, it needs shelter until its roots are strong. A real-life example. A friend of mine once decided to leave a toxic work environment and start her own business. She felt empowered and wanted to tell everyone. Within days, she was met with a barrage of questions. Are you sure that's wise? Do you have enough savings? What if it doesn't work? Their words planted seeds of uncertainty. She delayed her decision for months, not because she lost faith in her plan, but because she absorbed their fear. The Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius didn't consult the crowd every time he made a change in his life. He reminded himself, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. That is, let your actions, not your arguments, prove your point. Epictetus advised acting first, speaking later, if speaking at all. To the Stoics, energy spent justifying yourself was energy stolen from doing the work. Your challenge. Before sharing your next big decision, ask yourself, does this need an audience right now, or just my commitment? If it's still in the early stages, protect it. Work on it quietly. Let it grow without the noise of other people's opinions. And when you do face battles, whether they're personal struggles, career shifts, or emotional growth, remember that silence can be strategic. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is keep moving without explaining your every step. This isn't about secrecy for its own sake. It's about protecting your focus, your confidence, and your momentum. Remember, some victories are best celebrated privately. The day will come when the results of your quiet work will be visible to everyone, and by then, you won't need to say a word. The win will speak for itself. Lesson 12. The noise of the world is exhausting. We live in an age of constant noise, and not just the kind you hear. Notifications, opinions, criticism, comparison, pressure to share every moment, explain every decision, justify every change. It's like living with the volume turned up so loud you can't even hear your own thoughts. The danger is that noise can feel like action. Talking about change, posting about change, debating about change, it tricks you into thinking you're moving forward, when in reality, you're just burning energy without taking steps. A real-life example. I once knew someone who decided to improve his health, but instead of quietly focusing on his routine, he documented every meal, every workout, every tiny change on social media. Soon, the project became about maintaining the online image rather than actually making progress. He was performing, not transforming. When the likes slowed down, so did his motivation. The Stoic perspective. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He didn't spend his time justifying his decisions to the masses, he simply lived them. For the Stoics, peace and progress came from tuning out the world's noise and tuning in to the inner voice that guided them toward virtue. Your challenge. Identify the sources of noise in your life. Is it the constant stream of advice from people who don't live the way you want? The endless scroll of social media? The pressure to respond to every comment, every opinion? Decide what truly deserves your attention and mute the rest. Learn to enjoy your progress in private. That's not hiding, that's protecting. It allows you to focus on what matters without the constant pull to impress, defend, or compare. And here's the secret. Once you lower the volume, you'll hear your own thoughts more clearly. You'll notice what actually moves you forward and what's just a distraction dressed as productivity. Remember, noise drains energy. Silence builds it. The more you step away from the constant chatter, the more space you create for clarity, focus, and meaningful action. Lesson 13. If you do it for yourself, you don't need to say it. Think about the most meaningful changes you've ever made. Did you announce them before you started, or did you simply live them? Chances are, the ones that truly transformed you weren't broadcast for the world to see. They were personal, intimate, and yours alone. When your motivation comes from within, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't seek permission, validation, or applause. You act because it aligns with who you want to be, not because you want to be seen acting. A real-life example. I knew someone who completely turned his life around after years of destructive habits. He didn't tell anyone about the work he was doing, the early mornings, the small disciplines, the relentless self-reflection. A year later, people began to notice the changes without him saying a word. And when they asked what happened, his answer was simple. I decided I wanted a different life, and I didn't need to tell anyone to make it real. The Stoic perspective. Seneca wrote, "The reward for a good action is having done it." For the Stoics, the act itself was enough. Virtue didn't need to be advertised, it needed to be lived. When you do something because it's right, because it makes you stronger, or because it brings you closer to your values, that's the reward. Anything else is extra. Your challenge. The next time you commit to something meaningful, a change in your habits, a new goal, a personal promise, keep it to yourself. Let your motivation come from the satisfaction of staying true to your word, not from how others respond. Let time be the storyteller, not your social media feed. This doesn't mean hiding out of fear. It means protecting what matters most until it's unshakable. When the change is real, people will notice without you needing to point it out. And if they don't notice, it still matters because you will. Remember, the truest form of freedom is doing the work for yourself without needing to explain it. When you no longer need the world's approval, you're unstoppable. And that's when your life begins to speak louder than anything you could ever say. Conclusion. You don't need to tell the world every step you take. Silence can be the soil where your true strength grows. When you stop speaking from your wounds and start acting from your power, you'll realize no one can shake you unless you allow it. No one needs to know for you to feel worthy. And no one can take away what you've built in silence. If you're starting something today, keep it for yourself. Let it grow strong until it speaks for you. If this resonates, subscribe and share your commitment in the comments. I will build in silence.